Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GameMaker for Beginners. In this week's episode we're going to look at how to add backgrounds to our game levels and look at the difference between static backgrounds, that's backgrounds that don't move, and scrolling backgrounds, that's backgrounds that move regardless of what we're doing as a player. Okay, the first thing we need to decide when thinking about backgrounds is whether we make our own background or if we source it from somewhere else. If we're going to source our background from somewhere else, we need to make sure that we've got the right to use the background and that it's not someone else's intellectual property. To that end, a good website that you could start looking on is wikimedia.org, and this contains lots of Creative Commons images that you're able to use in your projects. So this is Wikimedia Commons here. I've got it set at the minute, so we're having a look at photos, and if we go down to the content, I'm going to have a look, for example, at landscapes. And if we click the landscapes option, it's going to take us through to lots and lots of different landscapes. So here we go, we've got different subcategories here. I'm just going to have a look at, for example, let's have a look at landscapes with flowers rather than fictional ones. So here we go, we've got lots of different pictures, and we can download any of these and use them in our projects. So let's click this one here, which is Caesar Minor Sunflowers Chance Projects, and that's a Creative Commons project uploaded by Stegop. And to download this, all we need to do is click the little download icon here. And we need to attribute the author in this one. Okay, well that's fine, we can attribute them in the game if we want in the credits, but let's find one where we don't need to attribute the author. We need to attribute that one as well. But let's download that, and if we're going to attribute them, we'd put them in the credits. There we go. Another option, if we're not going to use a pre-existing image, is that we make an image ourselves. You can use that, do that using Photoshop, Microsoft Paint, GIMP, which is a wonderful free image digital image creation program. So GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Project. You can download this for free on Mac and PC. It's a wonderful piece of software, very similar to Photoshop. However, this afternoon I've just used the wonderful Microsoft Paint to create this masterpiece here, which is my road image. So that's what we're going to use for today's project. So if I load up GameMaker, the first thing we need to do when we're going to import a new background into our project is click on Backgrounds on the left hand side, right click it, and then click to Create Background. Now we could either, just as with the sprite, we could either edit a background and make one using GameMaker's in-program image editor, or we can load one up, and we're going to load up the one that we've already made. And so I'm going to navigate using the load background, navigate using the options here to find where I've saved it on the computer. There it is, and there we go, fantastic. So at the minute we can see it's got the width and the height of the image. It's 1264 pixels across and 988 pixels up. So let's click OK. So there we go, we've got our background in the project. Next thing we need to do is go into the game level, and we do that by going into the game's room. And when we open up room, we've got a variety of options here. Where we need to go is backgrounds, and you'll see the backgrounds tab along with the views, physics, objects, settings and tiles tabs. So click backgrounds. At the minute you can see we're just drawing a background colour, and that colour is grey, and that's been our background so far, a boring grey colour. But what we want to do is we want to set up an image as our background. So where it says no background, the little blue drop down menu, give that a click and select the background you want to use. We're going to use background 1. And we've got two options now. We can either choose to have the whole image as a static image as our background, stretched so that it fits the proportions of our game level. So if I tick stretch, we'll see there we go, and it's distorted the image to make it fit within the game level, which is our active game level, which we can see by going into settings, which is 640 pixels by 480 pixels. So obviously that's distorted it a little bit, we can't really tell too much on this one. The other option is that we can set our image to move, and at the minute you can see we've got horizontal speed set to -2, and this means that instead of being a static image, it's now going to move from left to right, and it's going to scroll steadily sideways. So this would be a side scrolling background, and we've done that by changing the horizontal speed to -2. We could also make it move downwards, and we can make it move downwards by setting horizontal speed to 0 but vertical speed to -2, and then the background would scroll up and it'll create a different effect. One thing we do need to do, if we're going to have a scrolling background rather than a static stationary background, so remember stretch for static stationary, untick for scrolling. One thing we need to do for a scrolling background is, I'm going to set this to -2 vertical speed, so it's going to move on a -2 horizontal speed, so it's going to move left to right. Is if we're going to have it scrolling, we need to make sure that it tiles the background, so almost loops the background over and over, and we need to do this by ticking tile horizontal if we're moving it horizontally, or tile vertically if we're moving it vertically up and down. So remember, horizontal, left to right. So as you can see, we've got our background image set. We've told it to tile horizontally, so to loop the background, and we've told it to move at a speed of 2. So it's got -2 there, so it's moving at a speed of -2. And let's give this a tick, and let's just see how that's looking. So fingers crossed now, and preview our level. We should have the music from the last tutorial, but we should also have a scrolling background that will move left to right. And we'll just wait for that to compile. As ever, it will just take a moment. And here we go. And there we go. We can see now that the background's moving left to right. So we'll close that down. We can see the background was moving left to right. If we go back into our room, we're just going to change it now. So we've tried tile horizontally and set the speed so it moves left to right. Let's untick tile horizontally, set the speed to 0, and let's set it to stretch instead. So now we should have a static background because we set it to stretch. We've unticked the tile options and set both the speeds to 0. So now it shouldn't be a moving background, it should be a static background, and we should be able to see all of it. And just wait for this to compile. There we go. And now we should see that it's all static. And there we go, we can see that the background was static there. So that's how we create static and scrolling backgrounds within GameMaker. Remember, we create a new background, we load up our background image if it's already been created and it's on our computer, or we can create one using GameMaker's inbuilt sprite editor, image editing software by Edit Background. Once it's in there, we go into the room, we navigate to the Backgrounds tab, and in the Backgrounds tab, we select the background image using the blue drop-down menu, and either tick and stretch to make a static background, or tile horizontally and changing the speed to make a scrolling background. Thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing games, try and add some interesting backgrounds in, and I'll see you all next week.